This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Tuesday, the first day of June in the year 2021. I'm Gordon Mosley. Here's what we're tracking tonight. The PP Civic Government nominated commissioners and the Guyana Elections Commission have tabled motions at the commission seeking the immediate dismissal of the Chief Election Officer Kit Lowenfield, the Deputy Chief Election Officer Roxanne Myers, and the Returning Officer for Region 4, Claremont Mingo. Lowenfield is currently before the courts facing charges of forgery and misconduct in public office related to allegations of fraud at the 2020 elections. Myers and Mingo are also facing similar charges in the court. In the motion seeking Lowenfield's dismissal as Chief Elections Officer, Commissioners Says Gunraj, Bibi Shadiq, and Manoj Narayan contend that Lowenfield breached his functions, duties, responsibilities, and obligations as Chief Elections Officer and neglected compliance of the statutory process concerning the obligation of controlling and supervising an election officer under his control, referring to the Region 4 Returning Officer Claremont Mingo. They also contend that Lowenfield breached his functions and responsibilities and neglected to ensure that the process of ascertaining the total number of votes cast in favor of each list of candidates for District 4 by adding up the votes recorded in the statements of poll was done with dispatch and without inordinate or undue delay. Additionally, the three government commissioners are also seeking the firing of Lowenfield for neglecting to provide proper and lawful directions, instructions, and guidance to the officers and employees of the Secretariat in the performance of their statutory duties during the process of adding up the votes for the elections. And they also complain in their motion that Lowenfield did not act even after complaints and public protests from members of the contesting opposition political parties that there were major discrepancies in the votes recorded in the statements of poll in the possession of those parties and the votes declared by the returning officer for District 4. The move by the government-nominated commissioners came one day after the court handed over copies of the Region 4 statements of poll and statements of recount to the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Police Commissioner. The DPP and the Police Commissioner sought and were granted access and the release of the documents to boost their investigation and cases against Lowenfield and the other Elections Commission staffers over the fraud allegations surrounding last year's elections. Lowenfield's contract as Chief Elections Officer at the Elections Commission was renewed in 2019. APNU AFC opposition nominated GCOM Commissioner Vincent Alexander today told News Source that while the motion was tabled, the commissioners are still to receive copies.
Well, they have submitted the motion. We are still not in the receipt of the copy of the motion, so it's not, we're not in a position to make any informed comment. Suffice to say that they did submit the motion and that they did say in submitting the motion that the intention of the motion is to have the three officers dismissed immediately.
Okay, and those three officers would be Keith Lowenfield, the Deputy CU, and also the Returning Officer?
Yeah.
Okay, so... Yeah. Okay, what I'm trying to understand is the process now. It's been tabled. I figured there's a debate that would have to be done. Then there's a vote by the commission?
The process has not been determined. There seem to be different views on the process. It has not been discussed and it's not been determined. That is still to be determined.
But does the commission rules or the laws governing the commission allow for senior officers or other officers to be removed by a process like this one?
Well, this is not in itself a process. This initiates the process. And the question is, what process will we follow now that it has been initiated? We have not defined what process we follow after this initiation. That we have to do. But once we determine a process, I would say that the commission is empowered.
Mr. Alexander also noted that the motion appears to be preempting the ongoing court case.
It is not usual in organizations. In sense, what organizations tend to do, since the matter is before the court, is to wait for the court to make a judgment and then to use the court's judgment as the basis for their action. This here seems, in that regard, preemptive.
Now that the motion has been tabled, the Elections Commission will have to decide on whether the motion goes forward and what process will be used if it goes forward to initiate the dismissal of the Chief Elections Officer, the Deputy, and the Returning Officer for Region 4. More news coming up in just a moment.
Guyana, we've been through it all.
But as a people, we have
weathered every storm
And risen to every challenge.
Because it is the people of Guyana
that gives it its strength.
All the people,
regardless of race,
class, or religion.
we are one people, one strength.
And now is our time. A time to rise. Together, we rise.
Me name Radhika, right? And me just get my COVID-19 vaccine. Me turn rich and me take me COVID-19 vaccine, right? And me want to encourage everybody out there to come and take your COVID-19 vaccine because COVID-19 not discrimination, you know. Anybody can get them, no matter what race you be, no matter what color you be, even matter what gender you be, anybody can get COVID-19. So I come and I take your vaccine then because it's very important for take it. But remember that when you take your vaccine, that doesn't mean that you can just stop wear your mask and stop sanitizing and say you still got to take all the precautions. Nothing is 100% foolproof, but the vaccine is important for how you take. Here, Radhika says so.
Mobil 1 is more than oil. It's many oils. It transforms at the molecular level. When cold, it's thicker than honey. When hot, it's thinner than water. Mobil 1 adapts and readapts to last longer. 16,000 kilometers between oil changes. That's your engine evolved.
Sol Guyana is the authorized distributor of Mobil lubricants.
At Sash Financial, we create strategies for strengthening business and personal finances while helping our clients to build sustainable wealth. Our financial and business consultancy services are uniquely tailored to ensure every client receives quality packages and optimal results. Our financial services include financial reporting and analysis, financial status assessment, internal audits, bookkeeping and records management, financial planning advice, tax returns. Our business advisory services are related to business plans, business startups, operational improvement, business management, document preparation, procedures development, efficient marketing. Call or WhatsApp us today for your free consultation on telephone number 592-665-6045. Sash Financial, strengthening businesses, building wealth.
We are legions of men standing strong, but never too proud to stoop and help someone. We must send a clear signal to all. Do right, walk in upright ways, knowing that's what being a man is all about. And ever aware that things will only get worse when good men do nothing. Stand strong, be the one to live right.
Mom, what are you doing with GPL on your list?
Child, you forgot I have to pay GPL?
You got time with GPL.
I have to keep these lights on. The customers who think in that manner and refuse to honor their obligation to GPL are obviously not playing their part in ensuring quality service delivery. So, I will continue to pay my GPL bill on time, every time.
I recognize the value of your point, Mom. You were right.
Days after the Guyana Water Incorporated announced its plan to dismiss more than 300 workers across the company, it started the process on Monday with the firing of 76 workers. Another group of workers was sent packing today. At many of the locations, workers broke down in tears after receiving their dismissal letters. Some said they have no other form of income for their families and it will be tough on them financially moving forward without a job. In the dismissal letter, the workers were told that the company is going through major restructuring to align the business to meet its new objectives. The workers were also told that due to the restructuring move, the company has decided to reduce the number of positions within the company, and it is regretful of the move. The dismissed workers have been asked to return company property before the 4th of June and have been promised 1 month's salary. GWI Chief Executive Officer Sheikh Baksh at a press conference last week said there were too many workers at the company and there is a need to reduce the workforce. He said in the past 5 years, more than 400 workers were added to the GWI employment list, sending up costs. While admitting that the company is currently in a good financial position, Baksh said the workforce still needed to be reduced. This evening, the Guyana Trades Union Congress has rejected the move by GWI to send home more than 300 workers. GWI made the announcement last week. In a release today, General Secretary of the Union Lincoln Lewis said the move by the water company amounts to a deliberate effort to put persons on the breadline, since the company is not currently operating at a loss. Mr. Lewis said the effort by the CEO at GWI, Sheikh Baksh, to present the case that last year GWI suffered about $1 billion loss, but the company has since returned to a surplus under his leadership and still is moving to dismiss the workers, is an attempt at deception for the real reason for placing the workers on the breadline. He said if the company performed badly when those workers were there and is having a surplus when they are still there, any suggested problem in GWI clearly is not labor. Lewis said any industrial relations upset in the essential services should be of grave concern to the country. The union is calling on GWI to provide reasons why they cannot afford to keep the workers when they are claiming that they are already in surplus. He said GWI should also put the finances of the company out for public review. Mr. Lewis also said the CEO must show the nation the financial analysis for the laying off of the hundreds of workers. He said the act is highly suspicious of political vindictiveness and has the potential for further creating major disruption of economic activity through the country. The TUC General Secretary also said the action to terminate the GWI workers and workers in the public sector in general can be viewed as a payback by the government. Opposition leader Joe Harmon has blasted President Irfan Ali following revelations by the chairman of the Police Service Commission that the president attempted to influence the commission's choices for promotions in the Guyana Police Force. Mr. Harmon said he believes the president should leave office over his alleged interference in the work of a constitutional commission. On Monday, during a press conference, Police Service Commission Chairman Paul Slow alleged that President Irfan Ali, during a meeting and phone calls, tried to influence him to promote his people, Senior Superintendents Fazil Karimbaksh and Calvin Brutus, to the positions of Assistant Commissioners. The president has since denied he ever attempted to interfere in the work of the Police Service Commission. But in a statement, the opposition leader said the response by the president appears incoherent, erratic, and irresponsible, and shows that the president is worried about the revelation made by Mr. Slow. Mr. Harmon said there has been a trend in constitutional breaches on the part of the government since it assumed office, and therefore he has no reason not to believe Mr. Slow. Harmon said the APNU-AFC coalition views the allegations made by Mr. Slow of political interference on the part of the president as exceptionally serious, and the allegations warrant independent and perhaps international investigation. He also said the president's alleged actions threaten both the independence and the existence of constitutional bodies and are anti-democratic. The opposition leader has made a call on the chairman and the prime ministers of CARICOM, foreign governments, international and multinational financial agencies, the UN and international human rights organizations to take note of what he calls worrying developments in the country. In response to the opposition leader's statement, the People's Progressive Party said Mr. Harmon and the APNU-AFC should be the last to speak about these matters, and the opposition leader's outpourings constitute hypocrisy and duplicity. According to the governing party, during its time in office, there were numerous occasions when the APNU-AFC government officials attempted to interfere in the work of various service commissions. The PPP also dismissed the statements made by the chairman of the Police Service Commission and questioned his timing with the release of the statements. The month of May, which was the deadliest month for COVID-19 in Guyana, ended with 92 recorded COVID-19 related deaths. News source understands that other deaths that occurred during the month are still being probed for the possibility of them being COVID-19 related. The Health Minister, Dr. Frank Anthony, said it is important now, more than ever, for persons to get vaccinated as the country is seeing an increase in new cases. Appearing on the Jumpstart Morning Show, Dr. Anthony said no one who has been fully immunized against COVID is among the deaths.
What is important for people to understand is that everyone who has received their second dose vaccine, meaning that they are now fully immunized, we have not seen persons getting the infection. We have not seen people who have had both doses coming into the hospital. And if they don't come into the hospital, obviously they're not going to be in the ICU. And it has prevented deaths. So those persons who have been fully immunized nobody has died from COVID. So I think that's very important for people to note. So in the context where you have increasing amounts of cases and deaths, one sure way of preventing all of this is through vaccination. And on a regular basis, we have close to 100 vaccination sites that are open. And so people can go there and get their vaccines.
Today, the Ministry of Health announced that over 200,000 persons have now received the first dose of the coronavirus vaccines. Additional vaccines are being procured to support the government's vaccination drive across the country. The month of May also saw the highest number of new infections since the first case of the pandemic was recorded in March of last year. Health officials remain worried that the number of new infections continues to rise, especially among the youth population, which continues to be the group most affected by infections. The health minister said he would like to see more young people getting the vaccine and protecting themselves against COVID-19. Opposition leader Joe Harmon has announced the establishment of a flood emergency center by the opposition to assist citizens who are severely impacted by the floods across the country. All 10 administrative regions have reported flooding. Not satisfied with the government's response, Mr. Harmon said it was necessary for the opposition to form an emergency center to get aid to the affected citizens.
In view of the worsening situation and more intense rainfall projected, we have established a flood emergency center at the office of the leader of the opposition. We recognize that there has been and is likely to be more disruption to lives, damage to property, loss of crops and livestock. We recognize that there has been a shortage of information, advisories, and sufficient warning, and no central portal for persons to report their distress and how they have been affected and their needs.
The Flood Emergency Center is intended to, among other things, assist in collecting, collating, and disseminating information for the benefit of the public and the Civil Defense Commission. The opposition also said there is so much that the opposition can do to assist, and it wants to see the government play a meaningful role in getting aid to citizens.
The main reason for the severe flooding and the slow receding of water from the lands is executive neglect at the level of central government.
According to the opposition leader, the fact that some communities that are not prone to flooding are suddenly underwater shows the seriousness and extent of the situation and why it must be tackled head-on.
We reiterate our call for the urgent establishment of a national interagency task force, and for such a task force to benefit from the wide availability of skills and resources in all segments of our society.
The Flood Emergency Center could be contacted on telephone number 503-2465. Other means of communication are to be established soon. One person is now dead and another two have sustained injuries following a freak accident in a mining pit at Sandhill Back Dam Cuyuna River in Region 7. Dead is miner Ulrich Matthews of Port Kaituma, Northwest District, while Edwin Caraway of Diamond Housing Scheme and Brian Richards of Pomeroon River sustained injuries. The three men were employed at the mining camp owned by Romeo King. A police statement said at around midday on Monday, the three miners were working in a mining pit when a heavy downpour of rain, coupled with high winds, caused the tree to be uprooted and fall into the mining pit, hitting the three miners. The police said Edwin Garway received a fractured left hand, while Brandon Richard received lacerations to his forehead. Both are currently seeking medical attention at the Bartica Hospital. Following the incident, police said a report was made and the motionless body of Matthews was escorted to the Bartica Regional Hospital, where he was seen and examined by a doctor who pronounced him dead. The police are continuing their investigations. Meanwhile, the Civil Defense Commission on Monday urged residents along the Cuyuna and Mazaruni rivers to immediately move to higher ground due to the current and anticipated rainfall and mudslides. Since the start of the rainy season several weeks ago, Region 7 has been listed among the regions most affected by heavy rains and flooding.
Greetings to my Guyanese brothers and sisters. I just had my vaccination for COVID and I'm encouraging each and every one of our Guyanese here to take it. It is very safe and you don't have to worry. So we are encouraging each and every one of you to take your vaccination because we want to move away this deadly virus from Guyana. Take your family and your friends so that we can be safe.
I'm Joseph Harmon, leader of the opposition, and I'm here to encourage all Guyanese to take the COVID-19 vaccine. In the coming days, we will be rolling out a few activities as part of our increased efforts to help us fight against this deadly virus. Join us as we come together to protect ourselves and our loved ones. None of us are protected unless all of us are protected. Get vaccinated today, protect you, and protect your loved ones.
Across the region tonight, in the space of 1 month, the family of 326 persons were left in shock and heartbreak after losing their loved ones to the COVID-19 virus in Trinidad and Tobago. May 2021 was the deadliest month of the pandemic in the Twin Island Republic and the month with the highest number of COVID-19 cases. The month alone saw 13,085 new COVID-19 infections, which is 45% more positive cases than all of last year in Trinidad. December 2020 ended with 7,150 positive cases and 127 deaths. As COVID-19 cases surged and with 21 people dying in one day on the 13th of May, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Rowley, announced that the country would be under a state of emergency. 2 weeks into that state of emergency, which restricts non-essential movement between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m., positive cases and deaths continue to rise. A number of police officers have been among those who lost their lives to the pandemic in Trinidad and Tobago. Peru has almost tripled its official COVID-19 death toll to 180,764, following a government review making it the country with the worst death rate per capita, according to Johns Hopkins University data. Peru has been among the hardest hit Latin American countries during the COVID-19 pandemic, with its hospitals overcrowded with patients and demand for oxygen outstripping availability. Experts had long warned that the true death toll was being undercounted in official stats. The government said it will now update its death count, which stood at 69,342 as of Sunday, in part because of a lack of testing that made it difficult to confirm whether a person had died due to the virus or some other cause. And finally tonight, international news. The World Health Organization has approved China's Sinovac COVID vaccine for emergency use. It is the second Chinese vaccine to receive the green light from the WHO after Sinopharm. It opens the door for the jab to be used in the COVAX program, which aims to ensure fair access to vaccines. The vaccine, which has already been used in several countries, has been recommended for persons above the age of 18 with a second dose 2 to 4 weeks later. The emergency approval means the vaccine meets international standards for safety, efficacy, and manufacturing. Studies show that Sinovac prevented symptomatic disease in more than half of those vaccinated and prevented severe symptoms and hospitalizations in 100% of those studied. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley, encouraging you to stay safe.